What's up, people? In this video, we're going to be going over the rogue tier list for season 1 in Rogue Company. Now, we have a new rogue. We have a lot of buffs and nerfs that have happened to the rogue. So let's go ahead and talk about how that shakes up the tier list and how it shakes up the meta in general. Now, if you want to make sure to catch all my videos, make sure to go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, we're streaming every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 4:30 Pacific Standard Time. Hopefully, we'll see you there. We can get a game together. Let's go ahead and jump into this explanation. So let's start off first with the S tier rogues, the strongest rogues in the game right now. Now, let's go ahead and talk about Dahlia first. Dahlia is the most oppressive rogue in the game, right? You'll be hard pressed to find any team, competitive or casual, that doesn't have Dahlia running on it right now. She has the MXR, which even with its nerf, now it hits for 30 to the body instead of 32, is still one of the best guns in the game, right? If you get 2 headshots, body shot, they go down. Also, she has the objection, right? Best SMG at close range in the game, even better than Ronin and Scorch's SMG, the SOC, right? Now, even more importantly though, what makes her a true killer is the fact that she has lifeline and buddy system. Being able to take somebody's passive is great. Most people are probably taking Lancer or Kestrel right now. But realistically, just being able to res somebody 2.5 seconds from range while giving them suppressing fire makes her such a pain to deal with on the battlefield. People have to play aggressive if they're going against a good team with a Dahlia on it, because if you don't, Dahlia is going to be getting those reses off, and it's going to make it very hard for your team to go ahead and kill the enemy team to get that dub, right? That's why Dahlia is and probably always will be a top tier S tier rogue. Next up on this list, you need to go ahead and put Phantom here. Now, you all know me, usually I put Phantom as double S, but I'm going to go ahead and put her in the S tier this time to not be dramatic. But Phantom is the best rogue in the game as far as her ability to slay out, right? If you are hitting headshots with Phantom, the full body is the best gun in the game. Phantom is the best rogue in the game. Her kit, the grievous wounds, the nano smoke, the frag grenade, she is meant to slay out on people. It all depends on your skill. Now, people always say, well, that's for every rogue. No, it isn't. There are rogues in the game that even if you are trash, you can probably still clean up a little bit. Let's take like Chalk, let's take Dima. These rogues don't take a whole lot of skill to play and you can still do pretty well. You can't do that with Phantom. Now, there is a little caveat here. Now Phantom has the Nightshade, which is going to bring her skill ceiling down tremendously, right? The Nightshade is a good weapon. It's a solid weapon. People who run Phantom with the Nightshade will still be able to do pretty well. They can still clean up, but it's not going to be anything compared to true Phantom mains who are using the full body. The level of devastation there is night and day, in all honesty. Next up here, we're going to go with Ronin. Now, Ronin is always an S tier rogue for me. She is definitely one of the top rogues in the game. She's one of those rogues that you're going to see on most competitive teams. Now, Ronin has got a slight buff here. Now, if you hit somebody directly with the knife, it hits for 250 damage. So it's more similar to like the Semtex grenade. This is going to be devastating for people, especially if you can catch people running out of like those choke points. So Ronin has always been good. Now she's just a little bit better. On top of that, they gave a slight buff to the SLC, meaning that the kick on it is a little more predictable now, which is just going to help those PC players and even some console players with their aim a little bit, which is all good. Now, on top of that, Phantom has underground, so it's hard to track her down, right? She makes for an excellent counter flanker, and all in all, she has 2 of the best weapons in the game, KA-30 SLC, right? In a gunfight, especially if it's a one-on-one, your Ronin's probably coming out on top. The next rogue that I want to add on here is going to be Glitch. A lot of people sleep on Glitch, and that's because he has a high skill ceiling. He's right below Phantom in my opinion, and a lot of people, since they struggle to use him effectively, they assume that he's bad. Just because you can't use a rogue doesn't mean that the rogue is bad though. Now, here's why Glitch is so good. Glitch has the ability, and he's the only rogue that can do this, to basically destroy the defensive setup of the enemy team, especially now that Trench, you can no longer destroy his barbed wire just by punching it, right? You have to use explosives or a glitch. Same thing with the active protection system. Now Glitch can actually destroy those as well. So if you time it right, Glitch can completely have an enemy team open and ready to be destroyed. Now, if you add on top of that he has flash grenades, what makes him an excellent breacher, right? On top of being able to hack the flash grenades with a coordinated team, just so good. And he has the Skull 6, which is a one-shot if you get into range, and he also has the LMP, which is a great SMG. A lot of people sleep on it because they think Chalk and Ronin have the better SMG, but in reality, the LMP is also very good, and it's one of the few SMGs in the game that can actually keep its accuracy at range, right? It almost plays more like a fast-firing AR at range, especially if you fully upgrade it. So all in all, Glitch is one of the best rogues in the game, and once people realize that, there's going to be a lot more people choosing this guy, especially in competitive. Now, the next rogue that I'm going to put on this list is going to be Lancer. If you've been watching my videos, you know that I've put Lancer anywhere between C tier and A tier. We're finally going to go ahead and put her in S. Now, the reason I'm going to put her here is because she is the rogue in the game that has the most potential when she gets momentum, meaning that once she starts getting some kills, she's able to completely run through a team. Now, the reason that I say this is because of her ability of Lucis. Then if you pair that with Quick and Quiet, she's able to get into positions where people don't expect her faster than people are anticipating, and she's able to actually roll and reload, meaning that she can just keep raining bullets. Now, if you pair this with her life drain ability, once she gets on a roll, it's very hard to stop a good Lancer, especially if your team is actually backing you up and moving as they should be, right? Now, every once in a while, you get a team that plays really passively and your Lancer can be cleaning up and people don't move in to actually secure those downs, and then it's nothing you can do. But a good Lancer who's in comms and using their team appropriately can really be a pain to deal with, which is why I'm going to go ahead and put her in the S tier as well. Now, the last rogue that I'm going to put in the S tier is going to be Talon. I say besides Dahlia, Talon is the most versatile rogue in the game, meaning he can be played aggressively, defensively, he can be played on attack or on defense. He's just one of those rogues that is going to be useful in most team comps. Now, the main reason for this is because of his radar dart. Being able to identify where the enemy team is, and sometimes more importantly, where they are not, is so important. And plus, since he can actually pull his dart back with Mag Glove, you can fish around the map and kind of get an idea for where the enemy team is going, right? Talon also has a very good kit, having the Deadeye and the LMP. The Deadeye just recently received a buff. Now it hits for 58 to the head and still hits pretty hard even at range, right? It's a 2-shot headshot, 3-shot body shot. Very good weapon, very oppressive, especially if you're coordinated. And as I said earlier, the LMP is just a good SMG, especially if you get up close to people. You can really shred people down faster than they anticipate. Talon also has the flashbangs and the C4. Flashbangs, of course, been great for getting those pushes, especially if you're coordinated with your team. And then C4 is just great for getting cheeky kills or for blocking off access points, right? Now, that's going to do it for our actual S tier rogues. Let's go ahead and take a look at who is in the A tier this season. Now, let's start the A tier off with Chalk. Chalk is an interesting rogue for me because he's one of the rogues that received probably the most buffs, whether intentional or unintentional, since the beginning of Rogue Company. Now, I'm talking about the SMG buff affected him. I'm talking about the nerf to grenades, kind of made the Semtex grenade a little bit better. And he got a rework to his actual ability now, right? So now when he's actually down, he actually has more health, and his ability doesn't degrade quite as fast. So now he has that 175 health when he's rushing at you, making him an excellent duelist, right? Now he can actually trade 1v2 people fairly easily. Now, on top of that, he also has the Skull 6 and he has his SMG, which are both very good guns. As I said before, the Skull 6 is a one-shot if you're in range, and his SMG is actually a shredder, even at a mid to long range strike, right? Obviously, the closer you are, the better it is, but definitely a top-tier weapon. On top of that, he has flash grenades, which makes him a very good person to go in there like once you're trying to breach something, because you know that he's going to be able to suck up some bullets, and if his team is backing him up, he can cause some real havoc very quickly. Next up on this list, we're going to go ahead and put Saint. Now, realistically, I struggle with putting Saint between S and A tier. I think he maybe floats somewhere in between that. But after his rework, Saint is definitely still a slayer, right? He's always been a top tier pick, but now that he has C4, I think that has a little more versatility than the trip mines. Trip mines were great, but they just weren't as useful as I wanted them to be, and I think a lot of people kind of felt like that. And taking the scope off of the Mark IV has made that gun a true shredder. It was always good, but now as you can actually shoulder swap with that gun while shooting, get some better angles on people, it makes Saint so much more dangerous. Now, of course, the more basic things, he has a drone that can res anywhere on the map, right? And then if you pair that with helping hands, he's getting people up so quickly. Not a Dahlia speed, but still pretty fast and very oppressive as well, because if people don't rush that, destroy that bot, the drone, you know, they can be in some trouble. Saint can get a lot of people up very quickly. Now, the next rogue I want to put here is going to be a more polarizing one, and that's Fixer. Now, I've struggled with putting Fixer anywhere between C and A tier, but I've decided to go ahead and put him A tier. Now, even though his warrant has been nerfed, his sniper has been nerfed, his thermal vision has been nerfed, he's still a solid rogue, right? If you are playing like a short range snipe game, and I know how ridiculous that sounds, he can still be very powerful with the fire rate of the tier. You can two-tap somebody if they're not Vi with full armor, or somebody with headstrong, and then at fairly close range, mid-range, you can still headshot somebody for 125. Where Fixer falls off, of course, is that if you're playing a long-range game, you have to fully upgrade your sniper. So realistically, it's almost more valuable to just go ahead and pull out the Deadeye, which is hitting for 58 to the head, right? So it's a two-shot kill. So realistically, your Deadeye can do just as well as the tier, depending on what map you're on. Now, with that being said, though, Fixer has the smoke grenade, which when you pair that with his thermal vision is still very oppressive, right? Even if the enemy team has a phantom, you can still pretty much clean up, especially if you use that at the right time. And then if you look at things like the fact that he has C4, he has the ability to get headstrong, it makes him a very hard rogue to deal with, especially if he's holding a point. So all in all, while Fixer has taken a couple of L's, he's still a top tier rogue. You still see him cleaning up and competitive. So I'm still willing to give this man a fairly high ranking. Now, the next rogue that I want to put in the A tier is going to be Vi. Now, Vi can be played aggressively whether you're on defense or offense, simply because he has 5 throwables, right? 2 tear gas, 2 poisons, and then 1 incendiary nade, making it very hard for people to set up against Vi because she's going to be able to flush you out of that spot. Pair that with the Nightshade, it's one of the most, if not the most accurate gun in the game, and the damage on it is also great. Now, we also have to mention the fact that Vi is one of the most hardy rogues in the game right now. She has tenacity, which makes it able to basically survive any grenade in the game. But on top of that, she has leeching poison, which means that she can get that 125 health, what makes her a very hard rogue to take down, right? Especially if she's coordinating with her team pretty well. So all in all, Vi is definitely a A-tier rogue and definitely probably the best defender in the game right now. Now, the next rogue I want to put on this list is going to be Dallas. Dallas is a solid A-tier rogue, and I think a testament to this is the fact that he hasn't really been touched since the game has come out, right? He hasn't received any significant buffs, hasn't seen any significant nerfs. He's just been a pretty constant rogue. Now, with the nerf to Cloak, though, that does kind of help Dallas players out a little bit. But for the most part, he hasn't really been touched. And I think this shows that he is a solid rogue. Like, he has the Devotion, he has the Harem. Both of these are very good guns. The Devotion can hit you for 71 to the head, and the Harem has a good fire rate, decent damage. It's not the best AR in the game, but it's a solid gun pound for pound. Now, we have to talk about the main point here for Dallas, and that's his ability to track people, right? He can snap his finger and basically highlight one person on the enemy team, which can be very impressive if you pair that with his recharge ability and he's getting those downs, right? You can basically just always know where somebody is, especially if your Dallas is playing fairly aggressively. If you pair that with his incendiary grenade and the EMP, he's able to flesh those people out, take down abilities, and just be a real tear for the enemy team to deal with, which is why I think Dallas is definitely a top tier, A-tier rogue. Now, the next rogue I'm going to put here is the new rogue Kestrel. Now, Kestrel isn't as good as people were hoping for, which is why I didn't put her in the S tier. And the thing that kind of brings her down is her ability, right? Now, her ultimate isn't bad. It's very good for holding off pushes or clipping corners. But other than that, it's very hard to use this one effectively. But where she makes up for this is going to be her weapons, her passive, and then some of her actual equipment, right? Now, the Riptide is probably one of the best ARs in the game right now. I will put it on par with the KA-30 for sure. Now, I wouldn't say it's OP like some people say, but it can definitely burn you down really quick, especially if you're getting those headshots, and the fire rate is crazy on it. The Knight isn't quite as good, but it's a decent SMG. It has some huge body damage. It fires a little bit slower than I would like, but if you shoot first and you're hitting all those body shots, you're probably going to take somebody down. Now, here's the big thing with her. That bounce grenade plus that resupply perk are very good together, right? That bounce grenade, now that I'm learning how to use it, now that other people are learning how to use it, can be a very, very cheeky grenade because people don't expect it to go off as fast as it does, and it really catches people off guard. And then once you down somebody, you can go ahead and get your grenade back off their corpse. Now, the most oppressive thing about Kestrel here is her passive, though, right? Getting that extra $1,000 for down is ridiculous because it allows you to get so far ahead of the enemy team, assuming that you're actually getting downs, and more so in games like Strikeout, but it's even applicable to Demolition, right? Now, if you have a Dahlia on your team and you two are paired together, allowing Dahlia to also get ahead is ridiculous because you're starting to get those upgrades before the enemy team can. You have more equipment, you have just more tools at your disposal, which can give you a huge advantage in a game like this. So all in all, Kestrel is a solid rogue. She may not be as good as people were hoping for, but I think it's okay that a rogue isn't broken. You need more rogues that are balanced for this game to succeed, so I'm happy with Kestrel. Now, Scorch is going to be the last rogue that I put in the A tier, and she has come a long way. I used to say that Scorch was a very B tier, very average rogue, but now that they've given her a couple of buffs, I think she's in a better place. Now, they obviously increased the damage on the salvo, and they also increased the range drop off of it, so now it just hits harder, which is all great. But more importantly, they changed the sound for the overheat. So now it isn't as loud, meaning that people can't tell as easily when Scorch has that ability activated until she starts firing, right? And that's a huge deal. People used to be able to hide or coordinate how to get around Scorch. Now it's a little bit harder. Now, another thing that I want to talk about with Scorch as well is that she also has the Arbitrator, which is a one-shot, which is ridiculously strong, especially if you have a coordinated team that's kind of backing you up and allowing you to get those good pushes or secure a corner. Now, and even more importantly than that, she has that Incendiary Grenade, which is great for fleshing people out so that people can't hide from her. And being fireproof, she's even able to run through her own flames and get some cheeky flanks on people. Now, the downside to Scorch is that her overheat cooldown has increased, just like Lancer got that same type of nerf. But overall, she's definitely a solid rogue. She's come up a lot, and she's definitely a rogue to be looking out for. Next up, we're going to go ahead and talk about our B tier rogues. These are just our average run-of-the-mill rogues. Now, first on this list is going to be Trench. Trench has kind of fallen from grace a little bit. I know a lot of people always thought Trench was trash, but they've nerfed my man pretty significantly. The first nerf that he got was that they took away tenacity, which makes him a lot less effective, right? Because a lot of people know how to get away from the active protection system, or get around it, I should say. And then secondly, they went ahead and nerfed the MXR, which was his weapon that was just too oppressive, right? On Dahlia, it's still fine, but on Trench, if you take away his ability to be a stonewall and you take away some of his damage, it just makes him a lot less effective. Now, the fact that his barbed wire is now a little bit smaller isn't that big of a deal because he has two of them. So if you position them correctly, you can still block off some pretty good points. And then on top of that as well, now you can't destroy them just by punching. So that is a good look for Trench. Now, the obvious issue with Trench as well is that glitch is a hard counter to him now. So if the enemy team has a good glitch, Trench just isn't as useful. And that's why he's kind of fallen out of favor as a defender. Vi is just going to be a better, safer bet in all reality. The next rogue that we're going to put here is going to be Anvil. Now, Anvil is an OG. He's a solid rogue, but he falls inside of the same traps that Trench falls into, right? His wall is good, but most people are just going to go around it because it's not large enough to really block off any good points. And realistically, people are well aware of how to counter Anvil now, right? Now, he does have some good things going for him. Even though the Maul was nerfed a while back, it's still a decent gun, and the fact that it has a 90-round clip can be very oppressive. You can put down some really good covering fire. He has the C4 and the Arbitrator, right? So he can hold off points very well. I'll give that to Anvil. Now, the thing that he fails at, though, is that he lost his ability to walk through barbed wire or slowing effects. Now, he does still, counter flashbangs, but he's just not as powerful as a rogue as he used to be, and that has really made him fall out of favor as far as being one of those top-tier defender-type rogues. But all in all, he's still not bad. I would probably say it's a safer bet to go with Anvil than Trench right now, just because he's in a better place, but Vi is still going to dominate over both of these two rogues. Now, the last rogue that I'm going to put in B tier is going to be Dima. Now, Dima is an interesting rogue for me because I've been arguing with people between putting him in A tier and B tier, and we're going to go ahead and settle on B. And now, the reason for that is because Dima just doesn't have any type of mitigation, right? Meaning that if Dima gets hit by a grenade, if he gets hit by a Ronin ult, anything like that, he's going down, right? So he just isn't a very sturdy rogue. But the thing that makes him strong, and while I say he teeters in between that A and B tier, is his offensive capabilities, right? Like his ultimate got a buff, and now the radius on it is crazy, meaning that it's easier to catch people in his explosion. Now, the other thing too is that he's one of the 2 rogues in the game that actually has the replenish and the life drain perk, meaning that once he gets some momentum going, he can really start mauling some people down. So in 1v1 fights, Dima does really well. And this is because he has 2 of the best weapons in the game, being the Mamba and the KA-30. So if he can get that first shot off on somebody, he'll probably come out on top in most of those fights, be able to get that 50 health back, be able to get his clip back, and just keep on fighting. So with momentum, Dima can be very oppressive. Without that momentum, he's very easy to take down, right? So all in all, Dima is a good rogue. We're going to stick him in B tier right now, but let's say that he floats kind of in between those 2. Now, the last rogue that we're going to talk about, and the only rogue that I'm going to put into the C tier today, is going to be Segret. Now, I know a lot of people like Segret, and you're probably not going to like me putting her down here in the C tier, but let me explain. Segret by no means is a bad rogue. C tier is average, right? She's a C student. She's fine, but she just has too many flaws, and right now it's too easy to counter her. Let's start off with this fact. She's supposed to be the shield rogue, but yet and still, people can run up to Segret and literally punch through her shield, right? I can shoot her at point blank range with an SMG and it will do no damage to her shield. But if I punch her, I'm hitting her for 30 damage, which is ridiculous, right? So if a team is somewhat coordinated and they rush a Segret or they catch her in a corner or something, they can just beat her down. Now, obviously, we all have played this game for a while. For the most part, you can kind of work around that. You get your shots off. But the fact that they can do that to you is ridiculous. Now, second thing is, she's just too easy to counter with grenades right now. Like, you can throw a grenade at her feet, and depending on that angle, you might go ahead and get her, right? Now, obviously, if you throw a Syntax on her shield, she'll survive that. But if you just throw it right behind her, I mean, it's a wrap. There has to be something that makes her a little bit more viable, makes her more of a pain to deal with. Because right now, she just isn't that. And maybe that's the thing that they wanted. Maybe they didn't want her to be a bully. They didn't want her to be too oppressive. And they succeeded at that because she really isn't. Segret is kind of a joke right now in this game. Even a really good Segret is pretty easy to counter. Now, a lot of people talk about the stem pack and how she's kind of like a mini Lancer, and I disagree. I think the stem pack is fine, right? Getting that health back, getting that speed boost, but nobody's playing Segret for that speed boost. If you want the speed boost, you go with Lancer, right? Because Lancer can do everything that Segret can do, but way better because her kit is designed for that flanking, that quick movement, while Segret just simply is not. She's kind of in this position where she's a mix between like a bully breacher and this like duelist type thing, and they need to either choose one or just rework her a little bit because right now it just doesn't really work for her. Let me know down in the comments what you think of this tier list. Did I get anybody wrong? Do you feel like I should move anybody around? Let me know. Thank you for watching. This is Ors, of course. We'll see you in the next video. Peace, 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 peace.